Hey guys, Scott here. I actually recorded a separate video today that I'll be uploading tomorrow instead, so the timeline is out of whack. But I actually wanted to talk about this dev update that they just announced, and I want to focus on the Trickster part. There's a couple of other cool things that are, interesting and kind of cool, and the whole practicing versus bots for new killers thing is really cool. Minor HUD change is cool. This palette hit thing, I don't even give a shit what they're saying anymore. They said they'd fix this 50,000 times. I'll see it when I believe it. I don't even think it's worth talking about because they could draw all the diagrams in the world. As long as it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. But let's talk about the actual main topic of this video, which is the changes to Trickster. So Trickster is a weak killer, in my opinion. He's not. I don't think he's nearly as bad as people say that he is, because I think any killer that can down a survivor at low loops, even if they're the best survivor in the game in a relatively quick fashion, he can't be the worst killer. That being said, he's not good. He's definitely not a good killer. He's definitely on the worst side, but people keep saying he's the worst, and I don't understand that. But he was in need of a buff, for sure. The thing is, though, I think behavior just fundamentally does not understand what makes a killer unfun to go against, while also not understanding what makes a killer strong or weak. Because, in my opinion, they buffed the complete wrong portions of Trickster here. All this change does is make him even more annoying to go against, and he's still not good, really. He's still, so the killers are still not even going to be winning, and also the survivors are going to be having even less fun now. So it doesn't make any sense, these changes. So the main changes they actually did, the most important one, by far, is the number of knives required to damage a survivor has been reduced to 6. So we used to be able to get it down to 7 with the USB add-on, which made him actually pretty decent. That's been reduced to even more than that, which is, no, it's only 6 knives. For example, when someone's in a vaulting animation, you can hit them with 4 knives. So that's a good example of how long it takes to throw that amount of knives. Now, the thing is, there is very simple counterplay to Trickster, and it's sort of the same counterplay to Deathslinger. It's just dependent on your environment, and it's boring as fuck. The main way you counter Trickster and Deathslinger in both scenarios is you just run in a straight line away from the killer because they're a bit slower, and you just put objects in between you and the killer. You don't really try to loop them because eventually, it's like old Trickster, or old Legion. Eventually, he'll hit you once around the corner each time until you go down. You'll eventually go down, so looping isn't nearly as effective as just running away from him and putting stuff in the way. But, I mean, you guys can give me shit all you want for saying that I think certain things are boring in this game, but that's fucking boring. You're just holding W and looking behind you and just putting stuff in the way. I think that's really unfun, but it's effective, and that's how you counter Deathslinger, Trickster, even Hunters to some extent. Not so much Hunters, though. But it's very effective against these killers, and it kind of makes them weak. But the thing is, they're weak because they have no real potential to, win the game because of their lack of map pressure. That's the thing that needs to be addressed, and that's what they need buffs for. They need ways to make the game last longer in some way. Just making it even take less knives to down somebody, all this does is it exacerbates the annoying part of the killer, and it doesn't change the weak part of the killer. So this is just a net loss for everybody, because at the end of the day, the Trickster's still probably going to lose, and the Survivor's going to have even less fun because it now requires even less knives to hit. So what is the point of this? I still think the main thing that they should have changed with Trickster is give him some form of delay or map control. And the way to do it was pretty simple. You just make the knives last until survivors remove them. And so it creates a scenario where survivors, it is sort of like an extended form of mending, which I get is not interesting and it's also boring. But I think being able to choose whether or not you want to take your knives out creates a very interesting risk-reward scenario for the survivors. So they can stay, they can stay on gens with knives in them, which means, as soon as another one hits them, they're going to actually take damage. Or they can spend the time to play safe and take the knives out. And then, it's kind of like using a vaccine or cleansing against plague. It's, it's a safer play, but it takes more time. Or they can be the riskier play, but they might get down very quickly. And so it created a really nice risk-reward scenario for the survivor, while also not exacerbating the fact that, eventually Trickster at basically every loop is going to down you. Now, it might take a while, like current Trickster, because, hitting someone 8 times, basically as they round the corners, you'll hit them once, hit them twice, they vault, hit them 3 or 4 times, and then they take a damage state and go somewhere else. That's currently how it works. But that's just how it's going to be if you try to loop these killers. And just reducing the amount of knives it takes to actually down someone, I think is just really not the correct way to do it, because it doesn't address, I think, the whole strength of the killer, which is their ability to win, but all it does is make him more annoying to go against, so people will hate Trickster more. I think overall, it just doesn't do anything positive, and it doesn't address his main issues. I'm sure playing him, it will feel nicer, just being able to down people quicker, but it's going to start getting to the territory where people hate him as much as Deathslinger and Spirit and stuff. I guarantee it. The other changes, I think, are a bit more interesting, and I actually kind of like them. So the delay before laceration decay has been reduced to 10 seconds. This, it works with the shitty change that they're making. I still think it should be more a game delay thing. So, like, for example, when he hits someone at long distance, he actually gets rewarded because there's now some time lost on the survivor that has to take the knife out, or they can play the riskier move and just keep them in. So it gave him that form of even long-range kind of pressure. But with the changes of him reducing it to only 6 knives required for a damaging state, this change was sort of necessary, because now he basically just has to focus one survivor. He can't really, this is another thing, he can't really even pressure multiple people anymore, because of how quickly the knives decay now. So really, he is just he really reminds me of Old Legion now, with a bit more counterplay, obviously, but it's just sort of, he has to just tunnel the one guy down, which he can do a lot faster now, and then hook I don't know. His snowball is still not great unless he's got main event up, and I don't know. I get why they made this change with this one, but one thing, though, I think that is really good that they did was the change to main event. Main event sucked ass and needed more control over it. So the activation time's a lot shorter now, which is great, but it takes longer to get to the main event, which I think is fine, because if it's really an ultimate ability that you can stock and pop off whenever you need it, then it's actually really good. I don't care if it takes longer to get to that state. So increasing the amount of time that you can hold main event to 30 seconds from 10 seconds, that's a huge buff. That means you can down someone, hook somebody, walk somewhere else, initiate a chase, and still probably have time to activate main event when it's convenient for you, making it a lot stronger overall. So it's less frequent, like they said, but it's more meaningful, which I think is a very good change to main event. I think that it alone would have been a great change just to Trickster, and just leaving it like that. Because main event is really strong when you get it in a scenario where it's useful. The problem is you just never get that chance because it goes away so fast. This change alone, I think, would have been great and would have been probably all Trickster needed. I think maybe additionally having it so you have the whole take the knives out thing, you could add that as well to make it so he gets some form of pressure and game delay and things like that. That'd be better too. But yeah, the thing I wanted to focus on is this. This just makes him so much less fun to go against. And yeah, this is not going to go over well. People are going to put Trickster on the same level as Deathslinger and Spirit now, pretty much guaranteed. You would be surprised how much of a difference going from 8 to 6 is. It is substantial. And I don't know if you can see it or not now, but I promise you this will result in people fucking hating the Trickster so much, which just is going to create more animosity, piss more people off, and I just wish they address the things that make him weak, not the things that make him annoying, you know? That's, I guess, the main point. So, yeah, objectively, huge buff to Trickster. That's great for the killer side. I just know this is going to not go over well for a lot of people. But, yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it, I guess. He did need a buff. Not what I would have done, but I'm glad he did get a buff of some kind. I think the main event change is great. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.